Hey everybody, it's LavenderTowne, and today I'm drawing the rest of the main 6 from My Little Pony, but before I get into it, I just want to say, holy smokes, the craziest thing happened to me. So as you guys know, I have a webcomic called Unfamiliar about a little witch living in a haunted house. It got published in 2 different volumes over the last year and a half or so. It got nominated for an Eisner Award, which for those of you who don't know, this is like the Oscars of comic books. So it's like the most insane thing that's ever happened to me. Yeah, I just wanted to tell you guys because I was so excited. Now let's get into the video. Okay, we're starting with Rarity, and Rarity I feel like was the least popular of the main 6 back when I was originally watching the show. I think it's because she's got kind of an arrogant attitude and she's very posh and she's very particular. And I think that character type was just not very popular at the time, but I think she's sort of gotten a girl bossification. She is being respected for her slay now. So I think she's actually gotten more popular over time, whereas at the time when the show was first coming out, I feel like she was just not what the people were looking for. I'm glad she's kind of having her moment now, and in drawing her in her pony form first, just like I did in the first video, I really wanted to just kind of emphasize her longer legs and make her curly hair a little bit more exaggerated and fluffier. I think she looks more like the actual toy My Little Pony because whenever you would actually have one of those, their hair would get a lot messier than you see in the animated show, of course. So I thought that would also be kind of a cute detail. And she has this kind of interesting hair where it actually is like a little warmer in the shadows, so I wanted to try to maintain that. It makes her look a little bit more like metallic-y and iridescent for some reason. And then she has a secondary color of this powder blue. I decided to also put that on her hooves and give her a little accent color of gold. I think it just matches her perfectly, and it goes well with my plan for her human form. I honestly kind of like Rarity because she's one of the more creative of the main 6. You actually see her making things. She's a designer and a seamstress, and I think that that's really cool. I think that often gets ignored, especially in the original fandom, because I think she gets sidelined as this do-nothing popular girl type. Honestly, I love her horn being this baby blue color with a little line of gold going all around the spiral. I think it looks so pretty. Okay, so for Rarity's human form, let's take a look at her Equestria Girls version and then talk about some of the direction I went with mine. I feel like she got an aura-ectomy in her Equestria Girls version, which is kind of how I feel like for all of the Equestria Girls, but most especially for Rarity. I don't know what it is, but when I look at this character, even though she has Rarity's hair and Rarity's eyes and it's color picked very well to be accurate to her pony version, I'm like, I don't know this girl. I've never seen her before in my life. So that's generally my feelings on it. Again, not to be overly harsh, but this is, this is just for goofs and for fun. And it's, a show for preschoolers. So what does my opinion matter? It doesn't. But anyway, if it was my show, I would definitely want Rarity to be a little more I guess, supermodel adjacent, more fashion with a capital F. And I ended up kind of subconsciously, I think, putting some of Naomi Smalls into this character design. I did get back into watching Drag Race, so I think that just kind of unconsciously got interpreted into her design a little bit. There's something about the simplicity of the dress and the super long legs and the super long hair. I feel like it matches her really well, and I wanted to do something a little different with her eyeshadow, and I ended up really liking it, but I'll talk about that when I get to the coloring stage. The main thing I wanted to focus on was just giving her this long high fashion model legs and making sure that her hair looked really fashiony while also still having those curls. Now in the show, she only has the blue eyeshadow on the top lid, but I wanted to have a little bit on the lower lid as well. I think that just looks really beautiful. I see that in a lot of Indian makeup as well, and I think it just looks good on her, honestly. And I even gave her a little cool toned lipstick, which I know seems a little bit edgy for her, but I think it actually works really well, and it keeps us really tightly in on her actual color palette, which is something that I really wanted to try. And obviously I'm drawing the girls very, very cartoony, but I still wanted to have some body diversity, so she's going very long and tall and stretched out. Next up we have Applejack, and I knew right off the bat what I wanted to do with her pony form. I'm trying not to change their pony forms too much and mostly just drawing them in my own art style, but sometimes I do make a couple little changes, and just like I did with my own little pony Sona from the first episode, I wanted to give her some like little horse spots to be more like freckles. She actually does have these in her original design, but they're a little more subtle, so I wanted to kind of pull them out a bit more, and I wanted to change her mane a little bit to be more like a braid. I know it's kind of stereotypical to have the braid on the country girl, but I really couldn't help myself. And also I feel like braiding the hair of like toys used to be like one of the most fun parts of having a toy with actual hair or fur. So I also wanted to include it for that reason. I almost gave her blunt bangs, but that just looked entirely wrong on her, so I gave her her little side swoop back, and I wanted to give her little cowboy boots in the back. I know she's not a cowboy, obviously. She's like a farmer more, you know, she's usually harvesting apples. That's like her family's whole thing. But I still couldn't help myself but have a little bit more of that like cowboy energy, just because I think it matches her so well and it just looks so cute on her. Like, I love having the boots just on the back feet. And I gave her a little star on the back as well. The braids I put over her ear, as well as one big braid to the side and then one braid down her tail. And I just think it looks super cute. I warmed up her colors again a little bit, like I like to do with practically all of them. And I added just a little bit more detail to her hat, as it's very important to her character design. I'm realizing now, I think I thought that the back of her hat was her hair, which is why it's colored blonde like that, but that's clearly a mistake. I need to fix that. Okay, moving on to her human form. This is her in Equestria Girls. Again, she's like totally serviceable. She looks fine, but I just feel like some of her personality is not really showing or coming out here. I do like the cowboy boots. I mean, that's just cute. And the little apple appliques on them are adorable. I almost wish that I had done that. But for my version of her, I want her to look a little more muscular. There's a whole section on the wiki about how strong she is and how she does like ridiculous feats of strength, because she spends so much of her time like kicking apples down from the trees. So I wanted to make her legs in particular kind of muscular, and I just wanted her to look like sturdy. She also has like a really big appetite, and has always eaten a lot ever since she was a little full. By the way, here's a picture of her when she was a baby, and like this almost made me want to scream. It's so adorable. But I really wanted to give her like almost a Fallout New Vegas inspired kind of like cowgirl look. I think she looks so sick. Some of this is definitely kind of like self-indulgent, like the big duster I feel like almost makes no sense, especially for like an apple farmer, but like please just let me have this. The spurs on her boots are probably the most egregious, because like what is she digging her spurs into? If it's a horse, then she's kind of betraying her former life. But regardless, I just think it looks cool, and I tried to stick with a really nice like brown and warm kind of color palette. I wanted her to look really tan, like she's been out in the sun and working hard. I like that she's also sort of tomboyish, but in a completely different way than Rainbow Dash is. I think that that's really positive for the young female audience that the show is originally targeting. One of the things that I think was really special about this show is that a lot of kids media right before this, at least when I was growing up, there was usually only like one female character in the main cast. And oftentimes I feel like they ended up being sort of sidelined as like these hyper prissy, super feminine, like no fun characters, which I always found really annoying as a young girl myself, and it definitely contributed to my not like other girls phase. So I'm really glad that this show had so many different options for people to relate to. Next up, of course, we have to do Pinkie Pie. Pinkie Pie was so beloved online. I feel like up there with Rainbow Dash for being some of the most like internet famous of the ponies. And I think part of it is because of her insanity episode where her hair went flat and she started hallucinating imaginary friends. I think that there's a sort of edginess to her that isn't clear when you first meet her in the show, but she's definitely an interesting character. She's extremely hyper. She loves parties. She also does fourth wall breaks, which you don't often see in kids media, and I think that the older audience that latched onto My Little Pony definitely appreciated that borderline Deadpool style humor in the show. She has really huge fluffy hair and tail, and I definitely wanted to add on to that. I really wanted to keep sort of like a birthday cake kind of look going through her design. This is probably the pony design I changed the most, and I honestly just think it's so cute. I really do love like food theming in designs, especially like cute designs like this one, so I went kind of crazy with it. I know it's not practical at all to have the candles on her tail, especially in animation, but I just thought it was so adorable, and I love the idea of her having like little sprinkled areas of her fur and her mane, and yeah, she basically looks like she has like cake or melted ice cream all over her, especially down on the bottom of her feet. I honestly don't like the pink color that she has in her mane and her tail, but I deliberately tried not to change it too much because I think my penchant for pastels and like duller desaturated colors just does not work for Pinkie Pie, so I want to honor the original color palette and stick with it. Okay, so for our human Pinkie Pie, let's look at her Equestria Girls form. Here she is. This is maybe my least favorite. I do like that they kept her weird little widow's peak. I didn't end up showing that in my version, but I do think it's kind of cute and interesting. But other than that, I'm not really loving the design. It just looks weird to me, and I don't know why. I think I always headcanon Pinkie Pie as being sort of like a softer character, like physically like not super skinny, so like her ultra skinny arms and legs like just feel wrong to me. I know that that's totally insane, like I'm not going to force my headcanons on the show, but just for my own personal taste, I just think it looks weird, and I definitely wanted her to just be like fluffier and have just a super energetic pose and energy. She's very chaotic in the show, and I really want to like push her facial expression and her pose a little bit more than all the others, just to make sure that she's really bringing that energy when I line them all up at the end. I definitely feel like she's the type to collect those novelty purses, and of course I definitely wanted her to have a birthday cake one, since birthday cake theming was kind of my biggest inspiration for her like kind of redesign that I'm doing. I know she's not like a birthday party obsessed character, but she's a party obsessed character, and her cutie mark is balloons, so I just really wanted to emphasize that visual element in her design. I don't know why I was very tempted to cover her other eye. I just feel like it makes her look a little more like chaotic and fun, like she's like dancing around and stuff. Usually I would only cover the other eye in a character who's actually like more reserved, more like a Fluttershy type, but for some reason this was just really working with me, so I went with it. I also feel like she would definitely have those like millennial rainbow socks, but I realized I didn't want to step on Rainbow Dash's rainbow aesthetic, so I did a very, very pastel rainbow thigh-high sock. I also gave her those like knee-high Converse shoes that are so insane. I definitely feel like her fashion aesthetic would reflect the time period that this show is coming out in. So she definitely has some epic millennial swag going on. I also tried to do a sort of like gumball machine aesthetic on her sleeves. It's kind of subtle, but I definitely see it. I hope you guys can see it too. And I did go off her color palette a little bit. I wanted it to be a little more energetic and full of different colors, again, without pulling too much color from Rainbow Dash's color aesthetic. I think the pastels helped avoid that, but here she is in her final form. And here is the main six all together. I think they look so awesome together. Of course, you guys should let me know what you think, but I am so happy with how they turned out. Let me know if you have any ideas for future videos. Thank you so much for watching till the end, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much to my wonderful patrons, including Viette, Lil Bunny Baby, Raccoon Jam, The Aidenverse, Scott Wilson, Grexius, Olia, Brandon Stark, CB, Lucy Amajiki, Live Live, Salty Jackrabbit, Raven's Crow, Saucelot, Teehole Music, Jabber Dabber Doo, Kadaria, Deadly Nightshade Art, Astral Fox Art, The Expressive Poker Face, Tsubaki, Cutie Pie, Ice Cream Pal, Cola, JJ Jade, and of course, Lib 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 Bleh.